You used to be able to disagree with someone you loved and still feel safe. Now, one political opinion can shatter a friendship, split a family dinner, turn a comment section into a battlefield. Maybe you felt it yourself, your heart racing during a headline, that tight-chested rush when someone says something you can't believe. The hours lost doom scrolling, fact-checking, planning how you'd respond if they bring it up again. This isn't just ideology, this is your nervous system caught in a threat loop by an unmanaged mind that is spiraling away from wisdom. A 2023 Pew study found that 72% of Americans view members of the opposing political party as immoral, dishonest, or unintelligent. That's not just disagreement, that's dehumanization. And your brain responds accordingly. Because the brain can't think, it only responds to what the mind feeds it. So it treats identity threat the same way it treats physical danger. When your identity feels attacked, your brain is activated to shift into protection mode. Cortisol spikes, the prefrontal cortex, your center that responds to logic and empathy, starts dimming. Your body prepares for confrontation, not connection. And the worst part? The more often this happens, the more practiced it becomes. It switches into a habit. Your brain learns the pattern. Threat, react, feel justified. This is what I call ideological neuroplasticity. When your repeated exposure to political stress actually rewires your brain to associate safety with certainty and danger with difference. And because certainty is neurologically rewarding, it becomes addictive, even if it's exhausting. We don't keep scrolling because we love conflict. We keep scrolling because our brains have been trained to chase the next hit of "I'm right." But all that righteousness has a cost. Compassion, flexibility, and sometimes the people we care about. In this week's episode, we will explore how political division reshapes the brain and how to break the reward loop that's keeping us divided. Before we get started, I just want to say thank you for being here. This show is for people who care about their mental health and want to understand what's happening inside their mind, not just what's happening on the outside. If you haven't yet subscribed, subscribing helps signal to your brain that growth matters, that curiosity still has a place. And if this episode resonates, I go much deep into these kinds of topics in my new book, Help in a Hurry. It's the guide I wish I had when everything felt too complicated to make sense of. Now let's continue today's episode. Have you ever felt physically reactive to a political conversation? I know I have. Not just annoyed, but activated. Your jaw clenches, shoulders rise, blood pressure spikes. Maybe you rehearse arguments in the shower or dread the next family gathering because of that one person. Your brain is being activated to try to protect you, but it's doing so with ancient wiring in a modern battlefield. Political division isn't just disagreement, it's identity stress. And identity stress is one of the most potent triggers that will keep you in conscious chaos, a guarantee for nervous system dysregulation. When someone challenges your worldview, your conscious mind becomes very messy, sending the message to the brain to interpret that challenge as a threat to belonging, to safety, to coherence. Your nervous system starts treating disagreement as danger. Here's the trap. The more we feel under threat, the more we double down on our side. We stop listening. We start labeling to try and get control. It's not just, I disagree with you. It becomes, I need to defend myself from you. We brace ourselves not just for the debate, but for the identity unraveling it might trigger. The question isn't just, what do you believe? It's, are you still like me? This creates a feedback loop. Threat, outrage, self-righteousness, more threat. It feels like you're standing up for truth, but neurologically, you're often reacting from fear. And fear changes how we think. It narrows focus. It turns nuance into threat. It collapses empathy into suspicion. That's why you can feel physically worn out after one heated exchange or emotionally numb after scrolling your feed. You have used your brain in the wrong way. You're not just absorbing information, you're absorbing conflict. Your brain is literally treating it like an environmental hazard. And with repetition, this becomes a default mode of relating. always ready to defend, explain, prove. It's not just weakness, it's pattern. But it comes at such a cost to your clarity, your nervous system, your connection with people you love. And if you've ever felt exhausted by it at all, tired of reacting, tired of defending, tired of being on, you're not broken. You are saturated. So, what's actually happening inside the brain when the cycle sets in? That's what we're unpacking next. The limbic system, the brain's emotional alarm center, is especially sensitive to social threats, and political disagreement lights it up like a warning flare. Your amygdala is structured to respond to ideological tension the same way it would to physical danger. Then, cortisol rises, adrenaline kicks in, heart rate increases, heart starts pounding. You are not overreacting. You are experiencing a neural response designed to protect your group identity. But here's the deeper problem. When this happens over and over, it starts reshaping how your brain processes information. Neuroplasticity means that whatever you focus on, you grow. And what you repeat, you reinforce. If you consume hours of news or social media that reinforces outrage, your brain literally becomes more efficient at triggering that emotion. Your brain merges with whatever you merge with. You build a maze into your brain, and then neurology rewards you for staying trapped inside it. It's like a double-edged sword. And like any habit, and automatized habits learn. You open your phone, you read something inflammatory, you feel your chest tighten, and instead of pausing, your non-conscious mind activates the brain to pull up a well-worn script. This new data is learned, and the cycle happens. Escalate, defend, dismiss. Over time, your baseline toxic stress level rises. You become primed for conflict. A headline doesn't just inform you, it activates you. It pushes you into the same neurological circuitry as a physical threat. And in this state, you are driven by a messy mind-to-brain loop with little or no consultation from your wise non-conscious. One fMRI study showed that people reading political content that opposed their views had increased activity in the insular and anterior cingulate cortex. These are regions that are linked to pain processing and error detection. In other words, political disagreement literally feels painful to the body. And when your beliefs are confirmed, your brain mistakenly rewards you with dopamine. And this creates a cycle of fear, react, feel right, repeat. But dopamine doesn't reward truth. It rewards reinforcement. So, even when the facts are complex or when nuance would serve you better, your brain starts craving certainty. And that craving becomes self-protective. You start to feel that being open-minded is unsafe, that asking questions means betrayal, that agreeing on anything outside of your side is suspicious. This is the reward cycle of threat addiction. It's not a flaw in your character, it's a survival reflex tuned to the wrong inputs. Your brain is designed to keep you safe, but it relies on the mind's input. So if the conscious mind is confused between ideological rigidity and security, it confuses the brain even more. The longer you're in the loop, the more truth becomes secondary to coherence. And coherence becomes more about team than truth. This is why division feels good to the brain until it doesn't. Until you can't sleep, until you can't connect, until your body's so tired from holding a war it was never meant to fight. In the next section, we're going to name the exact mental habits that feed this loop and the myth that keeps us stuck inside it. There are 3 patterns I see over and over in people stuck inside the polarization loop, and they all disguise themselves as vigilance. Each one builds a habit of survival thinking inside a world that mostly needs cooperation, not combat. The first one is called mental overconsumption. You check political feed, like weather reports. You keep up just in case. You tell yourself it's responsible. But your brain can't tell the difference between staying informed and staying inflamed. The more headlines you consume, the more you keep your brain threat detection system on high alert. This doesn't just increase toxic stress, it normalizes it in a distorted way. Over time, your brain comes to expect danger every time you open your phone, and your body responds accordingly. Shallow breathing, muscle tension, digestive disruption, fatigue masks as vigilance. It becomes harder to sleep, harder to shift into joy. Your entire nervous system enters a long-term posture of bracing. The habit of constant checking keeps your brain in a posture of surveillance, not safety. When you stay looped in this habit, peace starts to feel unfamiliar. Quiet becomes suspicious, and emotional calm, when it doesn't arrive, can trigger guilt. Shouldn't I be doing something? The second one, righteous identity attachment. We all want to be the good guys, but the moment your views become your identity, disagreement feels like betrayal. This is one of the most dangerous loops of all, because it confuses values with ego reinforcement. Instead of updating your views as you learn, your brain starts filtering new input for one thing only: confirmation, confirmation, confirmation. When your brain receives confirmation, it rewards you with a dopamine hit, especially in a highly polarized online environment. But that dopamine isn't a reward for being right. It's a reward for being validated. And those are not the same thing. Over time, you stop listening. You start interpreting difference as a threat. People who disagree with you aren't just wrong, they're dangerous. That collapse of nuance shrinks your world, even as it heightens your moral certainty. You feel safer, but you're actually less flexible, less curious, and less relationally available. You're less self-regulated and less tuned into your intuition. The third one, outrage rehearsal. This is one of the most insidious stuck points and one of the least talked about. Outrage rehearsal happens when you start running internal scripts about what you'll say, how you'll destroy their argument, what facts you'll throw down next time they dare to say that thing again. Feels powerful, strategic, protective. But neurologically, this is a rehearsal for combat. You are reinforcing fight pathways. You are deepening grooves of suspicion and defensiveness. And even if the conversation never happens, your body experiences the activation as if it did. You walk away from an imaginary argument feeling tense, restless, victorious, but depleted. Your conscious mind thinks it's protected you, but really it just got messy, confused your brain even more, and burned out more cortisol on a conflict that never happened. When you rehearse outrage, your brain learns to expect threat even in calm. This is how we get trapped, the reinforcement myth. Each of these stuck points is reinforced by one core belief. If I stop being angry, I'll stop being strong. That belief keeps your conscious mind and brain stuck in binary thinking. But real strength, especially in a polarized world, isn't about constant defense. It's about internal coherence. Cognitive flexibility is not a weakness. It's an upgraded resilience. You are not weak for wanting nuance. You are not betraying your values when you stop dehumanizing. You are choosing to think. You are choosing to tap into your intuition and internal wisdom. And that's the most powerful act your conscious mind can do. In the next chapter, we're going to reframe and reconceptualize what it actually means to feel secure in your beliefs without being locked inside a tribal brain. Let's begin with something radical, but neurologically true. The brain doesn't think, it responds. So if your mind confuses belonging with safety, your brain will confuse belonging with safety. Your psychoneurobiology doesn't just seek truth, it seeks cohesion. And when cohesion is missing, it grabs onto the next most available identity marker, often your political or ideological alignment. This happens without non-conscious permission because it switches off your intuition. The part of your brain responsible for long-term threat processing, the amygdala, tags disagreement as instability. Over time, without mind management, your nervous system begins to treat open dialogue as emotional risk. Not because it's risky, but because it's unfamiliar. And here's where the real damage begins. Ideological rigidity gets misread by the brain as certainty. and certainty gets misread as safety. But certainty and safety are not the same thing. Certainty says, if I'm right, I'm okay. Safety says, even if I don't know, I can stay present. This is where we reframe the core habit driving so much polarization. What if safety isn't about being right? What if it's about being self-regulated? When you're emotionally self-regulated, your brain's higher order functions stay online because your non-conscious guidance stays online. The prefrontal cortex remains active. You can reason, empathize, adapt because you are listening to intuition. You can feel your values without fusing your entire identity to them. In fact, studies show that people with higher heart rate variability, a key marker of emotional regulation, respond more thoughtfully in ideological debates. Their ability to pause isn't just willpower, it's physiological. The truth is, clarity, resilience, compassion, even strong boundaries, they all depend on one thing first: a self-regulated mind, which means a regulated nervous system. And yet we've been conditioned to believe the opposite, that calm is passivity, that openness is weakness, that curiosity is compromise. Rigid thought isn't strength, it's toxic stress wearing the mask of moral certainty. The reframe isn't asking you to soften your beliefs, it's inviting you to separate your beliefs from your body's constant defense posture. Because when you're defending constantly, you can't discern clearly, you can't reflect, revise, or grow. And more importantly, you can't connect. Here's the reframe we're building into the brain. From, I'm only safe when I'm right, to, I'm most effective when I'm present. Present means you're self-regulated and your nervous system anchored, attention's available, emotional resources are intact. You're not just reacting, you are choosing how to respond. This is how we reclaim mental freedom in a polarized world, because self-regulated doesn't mean indifferent, it means awake. And that version of you, the awake, anchored, strategic thinker, is what the world needs more of right now. This is teachable, trainable, backed by neuroplasticity. And in the next chapter, I'll walk you through a 5-minute micro tool you can start using today to make this shift real, not just theoretical in your daily life, but real. Let's talk about what it actually takes to rewire a brain that's been shaped by conflict. Not metaphorically, literally. Every polarized thought loop you've repeated has built neural connections in a reinforced network, a habit. But those loops can be unlearned and rewired, and one of the fastest ways to shift them is through consistent micro-intervention. Small, repeatable habits over time that disrupt the automatic response and give your brain a new blueprint. This tool is called the 5-minute perspective reset, based on my neurocycle formula, and it's built to target the exact brain regions involved in threat sensitivity, identity reinforcement, and reactive cognition. Here's how it works. Step 1 is a recovery cue for about a minute. Here is a sensory regulation cue, something that tells your nervous system we're not in danger. Put your hand on your chest and take a slow breath. Step outside for 30 seconds and name what you see. Sip something warm and consciously notice the temperature. This step helps build a bridge between insight and embodiment. It trains your brain to associate intellectual clarity with physiological safety. Next, name the trigger. Take about a minute for this as well. When you notice emotional tension rising, scrolling news, hearing a comment, reading a headline, pause and ask, what exactly is being threatened here? This moves the experience from the limbic system emotion to the prefrontal cortex reason. Just naming the trigger pulls your awareness out of autopilot and into metacognition. Name it to move it. That's not just a saying, it's how memory reconsolidation begins. Next, surface the hidden fear. Take about 1 minute for this as well. Here's what you do. Now ask, what's the fear under this reaction? For example, if they believe that, maybe I won't feel safe with them. If I'm wrong, what does that say about me? If I stay quiet, am I betraying something important? Your goal isn't to solve the fear, it's to witness it. This softens the reactive loop by increasing psychological distance. Next step, called counter-identity. You also do this for a minute. Now flip the lens. What's a value I hold that makes room for complexity? This could be, I believe in dignity over dominance. Curiosity doesn't betray my values, it reinforces them. I can be open and principled at the same time. This step helps untangle your identity from your defensiveness. Next step, called an active reach, also do for about 1 minute. Create a short, powerful sentence that captures the identity you want to reinforce. Here are some examples. I am secure enough to stay curious. I don't need to win to be grounded. I'm here to connect, not convert. Say this out loud. Let your body hear your brain taking a new shape. This tool only takes 5 minutes, but with repetition, it begins to replace the automatic polarization reflex with a new habit of presence. And that's the key. Presence is not passive. It's how you take back cognitive authority. Use this tool after difficult conversations, while reading polarizing content, or when you feel yourself spiraling into a defensive posture. Because small mental rehearsals, done consistently, reshape the neural pathways that keep you stuck in tribal loops. This is how we start teaching the brain that safety doesn't require certainty, and that connection doesn't require collapse. Let me show you what this looks like in real life. I'll keep the names anonymous, but the story is real, and it's probably more common than we realize. A woman I worked with, let's call her Maya, came to me saying she couldn't have conversations with her teenage son anymore. Everything turns into a debate, she said. He parrots things he sees online, I end up yelling, and then I feel horrible. At first she thought the issue was ideological, misinformation, social media, maybe even generational values. But as we worked through it, using the same micro tool I just shared with you, something deeper surfaced. Her son's views weren't threatening because they were different. They were threatening because they mirrored a fear she hadn't named. If he thinks that way, does that mean I failed? The conversation wasn't just about politics, it was about identity, maternal identity, legacy, the terrifying thought that maybe she didn't protect him enough from the things she feared most. When we unpacked that, she cried, not because she was weak, but because she finally felt safe enough to soften the fight reflex. We used the 5-minute tool daily for 3 weeks. Each day she journaled the trigger, surfaced the fear, named the anchoring value, rehearsed her identity statement, and practiced the physical regulation cue. At the end of those 3 weeks, she told me something I'll never forget. I didn't need him to agree with me. I needed to feel like I wasn't disappearing. And that, right there, that's the real wound polarization hides. The fear of erasure. We attach to certainty because we think it protects us from invisibility, from abandonment, from being misunderstood. But certainty often makes us disappear faster. It flattens us into caricatures. It makes our nervous system a weapon instead of a compass. Maya didn't need to win an argument. She needed to reconnect with her own coherence. And once she did, she could approach her son with presence, not panic. The outcome? They're still different. They still disagree. But now she listens longer, breathes slower, and when she feels herself escalating, she knows what to do. Because she's not trying to convert him anymore. She's trying to stay connected to herself in the moment, and that shift, staying connected to your own mind while in the presence of someone else's difference, is one of the most powerful forms of cognitive liberation you can experience. You don't need agreement to feel grounded. You need presence. You need internal leadership. And as we prepare for the final 2 chapters, I want to leave you with this. The goal is not to become emotionally detached from a chaotic world. The goal is to reclaim your capacity to respond from wisdom, not just reaction, no matter what the world throws at you. What if your brain's addiction to outrage isn't because you're judgmental, but because you're scared of disappearing? What if ideological rigidity is the messy conscious mind's desperate attempt to feel visible? We don't defend positions just to win. We defend them because they anchor us to an identity we're afraid of losing. And the longer we stay inside that loop, fear, defend, repeat, the more our brains reward us for staying afraid. But here's the truth. Safety isn't created by dominance. It's created by coherence. When you are self-regulated, your nervous system is regulated. Your brain doesn't need certainty to function. You don't need agreement to stay present. You don't need conversion to feel heard. The real skill isn't arguing better. It's leading yourself in the presence of emotional chaos. And that's what we're doing here. Not teaching your brain to win louder, but training your conscious mind to tune into your intuitive non-conscious mind and to stay awake even when it's scared. Because that is where real liberation lives. If you're listening to this and feeling the weight of it, good. That means your mind and brain are still flexible, still honest, still alive to what matters. Because the goal of this episode wasn't to shame you out of reactivity, it was to invite you back to authority. Not the kind that shouts over others, the kind that holds space inside your own mind. We are living in a world that wants your psychoneurobiology in a constant state of defense. That profits off your dysregulation. That teaches you to mistake panic for passion and chaos for clarity. But that is not the kind of intelligence we are here to grow. You were designed with neuroplasticity, which means change is not just possible, it is biological. It is part of being human. It also means you're not at the mercy of your past reactions. Your habit loops are not your identity. Your exhaustion is not your weakness. If you felt called out during this episode, pause. That's not a sign you failed. That's a sign your mind is waking up to something deeper. What would it look like to stop rehearsing righteousness and start cultivating presence? What would it feel like to move through political division without losing access to your emotional resources? Because that's what polarization takes from you. The balance in your own conscious mind. It floods your system so that you can't think straight. And then it tells you that your panic is proof of conviction. But the non-conscious mind and the body knows better. And with practice, you can tune into this wisdom. Let this be your signal to stop performing certainty and to start building inner authority. Let this be the reminder that presence is not neutral. It is deeply active. It's the kind of active that lets you walk back into the conversation without abandoning yourself. So today the ask is simple. Don't numb out. Don't overcorrect. Just stay awake. Stay present. Let the conversation inside you get more complex, because that's how we make room for something wiser. And if this episode moved you, keep listening. Keep questioning. Keep practicing. The rewiring doesn't happen all at once, but it does happen, especially when you know what to look for. If today's episode resonated with you, thank you. That means you're someone who still believes in thoughtfulness, in curiosity, in growing a mind that doesn't collapse under pressure. And if you want more tools like this, I go deeper in my new book, Help in a Hurry. It's the guide I wish I had when everything felt like too much. It's full of brain-based tools for real-life moments when your logic shuts off and your body goes into survival, and you just need something that works. Every time you come back to presence, your brain rewires a little more, and that is how we heal in a divided world.